Hello, welcome back to the L1 Link Show with Friends. Today is July 26th, and we're doing business and social stories to share with your friends.
And let's start out with that rejuvenation of American manufacturing. Are you ready for it?
Woo.
Oh, I can't wait till we're back to being the manufacturing powerhouse.
USA.
But wait.
TSMC delays Arizona plant, blames U.S. labor shortage. Hey, if you're watching this program, you're probably well on your way to being smart enough to be hired by TSMC. There's probably some good jobs out here.
Or they're just not wanting to pay American labor prices.
Well, they did point out that a previous complaint here about that allowed them to bring in a ton of Taiwanese people to finish the plant. So this might be playing for more of that.
Honestly, that's probably okay.
It sucks for the people who live there and probably would have liked to have a nice high-paying factory job.
Remember when all that was rolled out, the jobs was like the big thing that was promised. That's like the
What are we paying them for?
Trump promised the one in, was it Minnesota or Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, I think.
Nothing ever happened. And then Biden was like, hey, yeah, we're going to do the Southwest. And now we get this. Always seems to be an unfulfilled promise there.
Can we have some of the H-1B visa people go down there? Is there anything they can do?
Still doesn't solve the problem of...
And you know what else is an unfulfilled promise to this day? Full self-driving.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist, but maybe this is a step closer.
Tesla starts production of Dojo, supercomputer to train driverless cars. Because it's all a vision-based system now, because they couldn't figure out the non-vision-based system. And the non-vision-based system was actually decent about saying like, oh, you're backing your car into a post, a light post, or a bollard or whatever. And the vision-based system is really stupid and will happily back you into a bollard.
It looks like you're trying to parallel park. Do you want help with that?
It's a little concerning, though, that we did self-driving in the wild to help develop it, and it never got better. So now we're like, oh, well, let's just go back to simulation. That'll fix it. We can get good scores in simulation. It's just the pesky real world that keeps knocking us down. Let's ignore that part.
They're probably going to use all the recordings of real people driving in the thing to try to train the thing.
So they're going to be using your data. Congratulations, Tesla owners. And the right to repair, it's been a huge fight, and this is a momentous day. You want to mark this in your calendar because the auto companies have completely solved the problem. No need to worry about it anymore.
Automakers say that they've reached a compromise in the right to repair fight.
That's
And
the resolve. I mean, you can't see that, I know, but
Yeah, we got wired
They literally
paywall.
said they've resolved it.
yeah, so I think this is a feint to get people to let their guard down.
The big problem here is that you don't get to look at the telemetry from your car. Only your mechanic does. And your mechanic has to be in one of these like mechanic, like I don't know what they
Programs.
call them. But they have to be signed up with the auto manufacturer. They have to pay for the equipment, blah, blah, blah. So if you just want to open up a little garage somewhere, you're not part of that list. You don't get to see the telemetry. And as the owner of the vehicle, you also don't get to see the telemetry.
That seems like it's not very free.
It doesn't feel like a resolution.
Yeah.
No, it just sounds like they got everything they wanted.
That is not something that anybody's agreed to in the government. It's just the automakers have press released it and said, yeah, we solved the problem. No need to keep doing this. And we got some mergers and acquisitions.
Corsair is buying mechanical keyboard maker Drop because everybody loves the drop control.
Think about getting a wireless mechanical keyboard. There's a lot of off-brand stuff that's reasonably priced. I wonder if they're any good.
If you find one that's based on the QMK firmware, it's really good.
And we got some rumors about what might be coming this October for our poor, downtrodden consumers to not be able to afford.
First M3 Apple Silicon Macs likely to launch in October, according to Gurman. So these will probably be overhyped as well. Certainly the M2 Max and Pro are just kind of disappointing.
They weren't the jump forward
No.
that everyone expected after the M1.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So we ditched all the legacy stuff in the x86 architecture, and it's like, oh, this is enormous. And then every generation is a tiny incremental upgrade, very small increments, because that's Apple.
And all the big companies are shedding everything that's not making a ton of money. They're trying to shore up their stock prices. Intel last week announced that they were getting out of the NUC business. This week, they're announcing who's getting in.
ASUS will manufacture and develop new Intel NUC mini PCs.
I had a moment this week where I was looking at a local bee farm, and they're like, we sell honey and this, that, and the other. And then they said something about they sell NUCs. And I was very confused for a minute, but apparently it's a beekeeping term.
What does it stand for?
I don't remember now. But I did look it up because I was like, wait, what?
Next unit of colony.
Yeah.
Bee colony.
Nectar something something?
Yeah, I think it was some sort of part of the comb, I think. But if you're a beekeeper, let us know. I don't remember.
One of the things that a lot of the non-Intel NUC makers miss is like really good HDMI integration. Like you can, HDMI TVs have a thing where you can turn the TV on via HDMI, and non-Intel NUCs are never capable of doing that. I really hope the ASUS NUCs continue the tradition, because Intel's just, I mean, it is weird that Intel's been kind of competing with people that make Intel-based NUCs. That is sort of strange, but ASUS will pick up the mantle and carry forward because it's a form factor a lot of people like. You know, you need to get your grandma a computer, and something in that form factor is a good choice.
Well, pretty soon we're all not going to need computers because everything's going to be on the phone, right? And they want the phone to be able to do literally everything that the bigger computers can do. I wonder how much horsepower we're actually going to be able to have for this.
Meta and Qualcomm team up to run big AI models on phones.
Seems like it'd be pretty slow.
Doesn't ChatGPT have an app?
Yeah,
Am I
but,
misremembering that?
yeah, but you're communicating with their big servers. Like they want this to run
Just run on the phone, yeah.
This is the Facebook llama thing or the Meta llama thing.
Llama.
They want to adapt it.
You have to pronounce both L's.
That's incorrect.
Llama.
Now, this story, you might wonder why we would care about these devices. And the truth is, when I put the story in, I thought it said Steam Deck. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. More people are competing with the Steam Deck. No, that's not what this was.
Logitech buys a StRaNGEr rival, Loupedeck. Need programmable tiny screens on buttons.
I bet several people have made that mistake when ordering.
Ooh.
This is, you know, we joked in the beginning that streaming is kind of the new gold rush, and the only people that got rich during the gold rush were the people that were selling the gold panning equipment.
Yeah. I don't even know what these things do. I guess it lets you because you're playing the game, but you need to interact with your stream, and somehow this gives you controls to do that.
Yep.
Like a soundboard maybe or something.
Yeah, soundboard effects on screen and
Pop-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
Seems a little over-engineered for what it is.
No, you could, play with your mix on the fly and that kind of stuff.
And this is a story we see every week. At this point, I think we should just call the game, right? I mean, there's no need to play it the rest of the way out. Musk has won.
Nissan is the next automaker to adopt Tesla-style EV charging plugs. Tesla has been successful in establishing a standard. They're going to get their federal dollars.
And it seems to work.
Is there, probably not. Is there any future where they stop making cars and they just work on chargers?
Tesla? No. I mean, they're still the number one electric car seller. So
Yeah.
why would you kill that golden goose? And the promise of flying through the air in cars, even though when you look at this, it doesn't really look like a car, does it? Basically, this is just another airplane/helicopter. But we're calling them air taxis, so it's exciting. It gets a headline.
Electric air taxi completes maiden flight at 70 kilometers per hour.
Please give us your startup money.
Yeah. This seems like, we need some money to continue, please.
Runs on batteries. It's a little spooky. And you know what else runs on batteries? All those electric cars. And you might have some other Tesla equipment mounted to your home. I guess they finally figured out, hey, let's put those together.
Tesla launches Charge on Solar to charge your cars with sunshine. Some areas have gotten a little hostile to solar people and selling your solar back to the power company. And so this gives you control in kind of a different way to say, okay, when there's solar power out and we have excess energy, charge the car with it. Sounds good.
Basically just a controller
Yeah.
to a smart route wherever the extra power goes. You will need Tesla solar panels and a power wall. You can't just use your own equipment for this, unfortunately.
You need to be mega loaded to use this.
It really, honestly, they don't have to be so punitive with the software. You shouldn't have to have Tesla solar panels, but Tesla.
They're number one for a reason, and it ain't quality. And this is an interesting project because this is a plane that is low carbon. But you would think, oh, well, it's just like the battery one that we just saw, right? Nope.
Green energy tycoon to launch UK's first electric airline.
Except
It's not batteries.
it doesn't run on electricity. In fact, right now at launch, it's going to run on kerosene. Which is interesting. And then eventually, we don't know exactly when, they're going to move to green hydrogen.
Biokerosene.
So, I mean, these are just planes that use an alternative fuel.
Yeah.
There's nothing eco about this. But they'll get some federal dollars.
We use solar in the vat in order to make the hydrokerosene or the eco kerosene, I guess.
Well, it's an easy way to get startup money. If you do a green thing, if you try to do environmentally friendly, you'll get a lot of startup. You'll get a lot of interest from venture capital. That doesn't mean that you're going to succeed. And here's a perfect case.
VanMoof e-bikes is bankrupt. The Dutch court has decided, and the administrators are looking at the possibility of restarting it because it was just crippling mismanagement.
By restart, they mean cancel the debt and sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
We knew this was coming last week, or at least we suspected this was coming last week, but now, yes, they are dead. The Moof is dead.
I like the idea of e-bikes, but they are very, very expensive.
And I don't see why.
Yeah.
It's a very simple
Concept,
mechanic.
yeah.
But this isn't simple, and this is just terrifying, and it's probably coming soon everywhere.
Amazon's palm scanning payment system is coming to Whole Foods stores by the end of the year.
They already had this in some of them.
That person just buying a soda and an apple. Odd
That's all you
lunch.
can afford. It's Whole Foods, Kristen. That was $25. So yeah, this now this is not just scan with imaging equipment. It penetrates into your flesh to prevent someone taking a picture of your palm and looking at that.
Can you imagine if you're like the underpaid Whole Foods cashier and you see someone just pull out a photo of a palm?
Or they
it's
got
like,
it taped to their hand.
it's like I don't get paid enough to deal with this. Whatever.
Their hand is rigid the entire time.
What about a ballistics gel hand? Like you just,
They pull it out of their
up.
pocket. It's a second hand.
I don't think that would work because it's about like it's looking at capillaries, and it's interesting how they do it. I wonder how unique it actually is, though.
We need MythBusters to build the ballistics gel hand to see what's
What was
required.
the name of the dummy? Was it Buster?
Buster?
Yeah.
And we are always looking for alternative forms of power. The current alternative powers that we have don't seem to be taking up all the slack. So this is an interesting new one. I'm always suspicious of these kinds of power stories. This one has something that makes me believe in it, but it's not necessarily a good thing.
Breakthrough geothermal tech produces 3.5 megawatts of carbon-free power. It drilled down, 3 kilometers?
Whew.
And it was somehow able to use that as a heat pump to get it heated to 191 degrees C.
Well, the problem is you got to find a rock that is hot and porous because you want to run the water, heat it, and loop it. I think that's how that works, right? So how do you guarantee that you get a porous, hot rock? Well, the answer is fracking. Remember fracking? Yeah, they're doing that here. I don't know if that was good long term.
I would think you would be able to maybe figure that out based on like the geology of the surrounding land, but
In case you're wondering if
I don't know.
previously, evacuated natural gas wells would be a good target to now deploy energy generation technologies at those exhausted natural gas wells, this article doesn't bother to even answer that question.
I think the idea is they want to put them in places where it's easy to buy the land and no one's going to complain. And so it's just like, well, we could try to go to a place that's already set up for this, or we could just, do some explosions underground. Force some water where it doesn't belong. And it turns out that apparently the New England area is suspicious of this kind of thing. They have a lot of protections in terms of their land and doing this kind of thing. And that is upsetting the lithium people.
Gem hunters found the lithium America needs, but Maine won't let them dig it up.
That title feels a little Never mind. I'm not even gonna try to say it.
They dug up 50 tons of land there, that doesn't seem very. I mean, okay, I guess that's 50 tons or 700 tons or something like that. And this dirt apparently, like they found one piece of the lithium containing rock that was 35 feet long, which is apparently like just primo quality.
And these two seem to be mega rich based on how they describe them. They kind of
an
just do this for
expensive state.
fun. They're just out there having a good time looking for gems, and they're like, "Oh, look, lithium. We should mine all this." And the regulators are like, "No.
You're going to foul the landscape. It's like, well, yeah, but we could get all of the lithium that all of America needs from this one place.
Interesting juxtaposition here, right? Like New England, one of the richest. It's a center of like our powerful people tend to live there. Don't touch it. Tribal land in the
Absolutely.
Southwest.
I say don't touch either, but Maine is such a beautiful landscape. It's sad to do something like that to it.
And another proud day. Once again, we can say America is number one.
Florida Barn will be the world's largest 3D printed building. I would love to get a quote on having one of these 3D printed, like just come in and build a bunch of like a small, low cost housing 3D printed community. I really think that would be awesome.
Now, Krista, the problem with this is that this version of 3D printing is concrete that is high in, what's that word you can't say? Cement.
Oh, like which one? There's a lot.
And apparently
Cement.
cement is the worst building material
Cement.
for green stuff. It releases all sorts of CO2 as it cures. So this barn is actually bad for the environment. But they're working on a substrate that uses less of that.
I'm always interested by cob building. I think I've included articles about cob building in the past. I don't think it would probably work with that kind of tech, but it's an interesting idea.
Do you think that the horses will appreciate it at all? They don't care. They don't know what they've got. They're like my cats.
They'll probably be in that concrete tomb and it'll be like, it's 100 degrees in here. The sun's beating down on it, the tropical sun. It would probably survive a hurricane.
You know what? Maybe like the cows, one of the ways that we can keep them calm is put some VR helmets on them and let them watch some YouTube. But even that's going to be too expensive.
Google raising the price of YouTube Premium to $13.99 per month. They unceremoniously raised the price.
They didn't tell anybody. They just were like quietly, oh, okay, now it's this. That means we're going to get more money, right?
Do they
From
know?
YouTube.
Do they know something that I don't know? Because it seems like people are abandoning Netflix and everything else in droves.
Oh, we have a story about that,
Not at
though,
all. You were totally wrong about that.
which blows my mind. But
Yeah, they do know. They know how to take advantage of us and get all the marketing dollars and then keep raising the prices. That's what they know. They got it right. Oh, look.
yeah, we have a
Wow.
whole block of Netflix stories.
You could not have timed that statement more poorly because it turns out Netflix doing great.
Netflix brings password sharing crackdown to India and every other market.
Look at this photo that they've included. There's a guy in the back row there smoking a cigarette in this classroom.
But it might be still a thing in India.
That's so, but in a classroom setting, that's so strange. This
Yeah.
math test is hard. Let me light one up real quick.
So that was a huge success. I will admit, I predicted that would fail.
I did too.
And boy, did all of you just jump on that grenade and happily do it. And it's so good that they've increased.
Netflix gains nearly 6 million subscribers as paid sharing soars.
Unreal.
So the people who get caught account sharing get a special offer to get their own sub account for, was it $7.99, something like that? And a lot of people did it. A ton of people did it.
If we ever have the hubris to not post the news to YouTube, it's on subs only.
And it was so amazingly popular that they were like, hey, you know that basic plan that everybody gets? I just don't think we need that anymore.
The basic Netflix subscription is now all but deceased. Standard with ad subscription is the only cheap option for new subscribers in the US and the UK.
Now, if you have that subscription, you do get to keep it for now. They haven't raised the price. But if you leave and come back, you'll never get it again.
Not that I would ever do account sharing, but I have not been kicked off on the account that I share. I don't know why.
I'm sure it'll be soon. Maybe just don't use it enough.
Maybe not. Yeah,
How
I
often
don't,
do you use Netflix?
maybe a couple times a week.
Yeah, they probably
Like I usually just put something on and fall asleep to it.
they haven't figured you out yet. And Google, boy, it has been a long time for them to come up with this basic functionality. How long has AirDrop been around?
Like 5 years.
Yeah.
Google releases Nearby Share, its Android AirDrop clone for Windows, because Google is perpetually stuck in analysis paralysis, and they just can't.
They can't even.
They can't even.
Well, they did, and it's not really revolutionized the system at all. It works almost exactly the same way. But you can move things to a Windows PC with it.
It is. I mean, I'm impressed that Firefox has not been able to weaponize the crippling indecision from Google to really innovate with Firefox, while Chrome is suffering from the same analysis paralysis.
Well, when it comes to screwing up your software, Google's bad. But are they as bad as Blizzard?
Blizzard is bringing its PC games to Steam, starting with Overwatch 2. This one completely caught me off guard.
This was
not expecting
strange.
this.
I don't know if we included it. I'd put it in the links, but it was more of like for context. So Blizzard did like their earnings call and stuff with their shareholders, and there was a quote in there about Overwatch 2 saying that it had basically stagnant. Like no one was really playing it anymore.
The thing about this is, and I experience this on the Xbox Game Pass constantly, where they'll bring in a new company to partner with, and it's like, oh, you can play all the EA games, but you can't play them through Game Pass. It just launches the EA thing.
That's what this is supposed to do
And
as
that's
well.
what this is going to do, yeah. So it's really
Kind of, yeah, who
I mean,
cares?
it gets it in front of more people, right? I guess.
Again, the suits are the dumbest people on earth, because Diablo 4 with its ridiculous queuing online thing, like if you're going to pay the Steam tax, just use Steam's infrastructure for that.
Well, this will let you use your Steam friends,
Yeah.
so you don't have to use that system. But that's just so horribly broken. And we might ask ourselves, why would they take this step when for all of their life they've always resisted the other platforms?
The press release details here is Activision Blizzard announces second quarter 2023 financial results where they're pulling out of esports, basically.
Yeah, Overwatch League's getting hit by this, and then of course, as I mentioned, Overwatch is not doing as well as they had hoped, but they're excited because they're releasing stuff on Steam August 10th.
They also have people running Diablo 4 that never played the old school Diablo to enjoy it, and so it's just a trash fire.
Have you started playing Diablo? Yeah.
There was something on Game Pass, and I started to install it, and it was like, oh, you need a Capcom account. Capcom?
When did they get a launcher?
I just noped right out of that. I'm not doing it. And the cryptocurrency, man, the government's attitude toward cryptocurrency is like bipolar. It's hot and cold. They don't know what to think about it, but now we're back to not liking it again, it seems.
NASDAQ pauses crypto custody plans, citing the shifting regulatory climate. NASDAQ looked at this and they said, hey, if we're going to be responsible for holding crypto, that's probably going to make us a target and also a regulatory target. And we can't be a target in two different scenarios. That's just madness.
Or they looked at FedNow and the CBDC coming and they were like, oh, this is a waste of time. Why would we do this?
Central bank digital currency. Here we come.
Now, Roblox, I am constantly shocked to learn how massive of a thing Roblox is.
It's really popular with the younger generations. One of my younger cousins plays it. He's like 8.
And they have a brilliant business model in which they let the users create the content and then they just reap all the rewards. And I guess much like Twitter, they've decided to give probably the top 0.01% of Roblox creators a little breadcrumb.
Roblox is going to let developers offer subscriptions in their experiences.
I don't even know what it is. I guess I'm going to just let that pass me by. If I were to show up on Roblox, I would hope somebody would just call the cops.
When I was first learning about Roblox, I went to their website and I was kind of confused at first. And then I saw a tab that was like for parents and I was like, oh, thank goodness. And I clicked it.
Roblox probably not for us, but what if we use nostalgia to bring back something from our childhood? More Krista's than ours,
Yeah.
but I do remember this.
Neopets virtual pet website plans a $4 million comeback.
I had a Neopet, just one, and I wasn't super into it. I had a friend though; she was really into it. I sent her this story, and she was like, "I revisited Neopets a couple years ago," and she said it's just full of like microtransactions now, and that's probably why it's getting this big reinvestment.
What was the name of your pet?
Larry.
So
He was like a goat-looking thing.
they interviewed this gal, and she was hyped for it. And also, her name is Krista with a K.
Oh,
But I think it's still in Flash, right? So they have to rebuild it.
it's the site's very janky. So my friend, when she said she looked at it, like some of it was still in Flash, but some of it had been moved over. But she was talking about all the things that she would hope that they would bring over. She was like, "You can't rename a pet. There's a pound for Neopets," which I did not remember. I was like, "Wait, you can just go to a pound and get a new pet?" And she was like, "Yeah, they're like the pets no one wants anymore, but you can't rename it. So it'll say like Ryan's pet, 420." And she's like, "If you can't pay, you can't get rid of the name." But I was like, "That'll probably be a microtransaction."
I want to get a senior Neopet.
Yeah,
Try to
give it a good home.
Yeah. Well, we got some interesting new features from Microsoft that could be used against us.
Microsoft launches vector search in preview, voice cloning in general availability. What's the vector, Victor?
Vector search turns your search items, breaks them down like ChatGPT into segments, and then turns that into a number to increase the search and make it interesting how they're doing that. I don't know exactly how it works. The voice thing is interesting. To get a voice clone, you have to have the voice actor say, "I understand that you are recording me for a voice clone," to try to get around the whole, like, now we have your voice forever.
Ugh, that's the Ursula.
And Activision Blizzard, I guess the game is over, right? They've won. It will now be Microsoft Call of Duty. And if that sends a shiver down your spine, maybe this will make you feel a little bit better.
Sony agrees to a 10-year Call of Duty deal with Microsoft. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, wait a minute, isn't the UK a holdout? And it's like, listen, the UK is going back to the Stone Age with the Snoopers Charter. We're just going to pull out the electricity.
Yeah, they're not going to have Apple. They're not going to have Google. They're not going to have Facebook. Why would we give them Call of Duty? Just shut them out. And then after that 10 years is over, there's going to be a hyper-intelligent generation of UK children who never had any of that and actually learned how to do things. And then they're going to conquer the world. We're going to go back
Second time.
Yeah, they're going to build like an AI navy, and we're going to play that out all over again. Maybe, you know what? They'll probably find something they can sell to China for silver.
I'd read that fanfic.
And here's an interesting one. The Internet Archive is issuing a DMCA. What? It's a horrible story. I kind of understand they're doing this as a self-defense, but the fact that we live in a world where they have to do this for self-defense is sad.
The Internet Archive targets book DRM removal tool with a DMCA takedown. So it turns out there's a project on GitHub that is built specifically to remove the DRM protections built for Internet Archive books that they loan out. I think that the GitHub project is probably a prop that is done by, the book publishers thing. I think the book publishers, some nebulous copyright thing is probably funding the DRM stripping tool so that they can use that as a prop in their lawsuit. I don't know. That's probably just me.
Well, we've seen the battle with the Internet Archive and the copyright people constantly, and they've always said this is not allowed, but the Internet Archive maintains, like, no, we lend them just like the public library. It's the same system. So yeah, this seems like a cynical way of getting rid of any kind of free book.
Well, it's a free lent book. Like the DRM just enforces that you have to give the book back to the Internet Archive. But if you borrow a book and you photocopy the book while you have it, which is a little bit more work, you could still do that. So the DRM stripping tool is like...
In fact, I did do that in college sometimes when I used the Iliad system and rented a book.
I mean, the college textbooks, a lot of the time, they're so expensive. You could go, photocopy a section or two. Not much you're supposed to, but that happens a lot.
I'm sure now the kids use their phones and just take a photo, but in our day, you did it with a copier.
What you're describing would be free information. We can't have that.
Yeah. Not only can we not have that, we have to build these elaborate systems to surveil what you're doing so that you don't have end-to-end encryption, so that your provider says, hey, it looks like you're photocopying a book.
But Google, despite all of the EU and UK screaming about end-to-end encryption, and let's face it, US too, they're going to do it.
Google Messages to support MLS protocol for interoperable end-to-end encrypted messaging. This is actually good because interoperable end-to-end messaging is perhaps a defense against law enforcement. taking over the end-to-end nature and saying you have to decrypt this, and it's like we can't decrypt this because it's part of the end-to-end encryption message standard.
But will Apple accept that? That's the big thing. Because if Apple doesn't play ball, then it probably dies on the vine.
It's probably the negotiating point. The thing that Tim Cook is stuck on is that we have to have a system in that thing to maintain green or blue bubbles. As long as you can have end-to-end interoperability with Apple iMessage, but you have to tell us if it came from an Apple device or an Android device, and then so we can make the bubbles green.
Exclusivity is a critical part of any cult. It's very important. He knows that. Well, Google has been threatening the ad tracking world for years now, and it seems that it is time, although it's going to be a very gentle rollout.
Google starts the general availability, the Google Analytics rollout of its Privacy Sandbox APIs to all Chrome users.
So you can use this now, but they will not actually block the other stuff. That's coming, I think, next year or the end of this year when they will do 1% of Chrome users just to see how bad it is. Then eventually roll the whole thing out. This is what the advertising industry is probably not prepared for.
There's part of me that relishes that, and then part of me that's like, oh, that might not be good for
But
business.
it's kind of like, you don't get to track people. Google does the tracking for you. We track everything.
There's still no way out, I guess.
And Meta, they still can't quite figure out what their business model is. Now they're getting into the AI game. They got the threads, but they just won't give up on these headsets.
Meta's AR glasses reportedly won't feature high-end displays that it had planned. No!
Look at this image. They literally just repeated the logo, but not all the way to the border on every side.
Well, that's the threads, right?
I guess. I think it's just the Meta logo, but copied and pasted a bunch of times.
We learned that Apple was also having trouble building its headsets. So apparently there's a big shortage for parts for these things. And they made these announcements before actually looking at the supply chain.
Oops.
And Threads was the hot new thing last week, but it's been a whole 7 days, and the world has changed.
Threads usage drops by half from initial surge. Everybody installed it expecting it to be a drop-in replacement for Twitter and found it was actually just a reskin of Instagram and has, sort of, it's like, okay, there's nothing here for me. And they
Yeah,
left.
I haven't heard anybody talking about it at all, just around the net today, or this week.
I don't have any proof of this, but it might be that some of those initial accounts weren't real people.
You think a social media company would do that?
I
Just
think-
lie about their user base?
They probably were. Probably more of them were real, but a lot of people probably installed it and said, "Wow, this is still just a trash fire." And
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I saw online was like, it doesn't have enough features to warrant keeping it.
Yeah, they tried the vape pen, and they were like, this is okay, but it's not like my cigarettes. And they went right back to Twitter. And Reddit continues to be a weird decision-making company at this point. I think they've probably just hit rock bottom and they're like, take everything from them. They don't deserve anything that we have.
Reddit is getting rid of its GoLd award system.
Good.
There were a lot of people that paid real money for this stuff, and you're ticking off the people that gave the company real money.
Yeah, I don't.
Good luck.
As someone who would never pay for something like that, that's great. But I bet the people who did pay for it are pretty angry.
There were threads where somebody was like, "I have 100,000 coins. It just reply to anything here, and I'll give you an award." And they were. It was amazing.
But why would you do that?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any
It's
sense
just
to
so
me.
pointless. But they have said that they are working on something that's going to replace it. So it's not like they're just giving up the monetization. But they haven't rolled it out yet. Like, why wouldn't you just
Why
wait?
wouldn't you wait? Yeah.
Also, some people said that because of the Threads thing, because Threads is not even any GDPR country isn't running Threads now because that would be illegal. And they believe that he did it just to take advantage and try to get in where Twitter was failing, and that too soon, right?
Yeah.
Why would you announce this before you have the replacement ready? It doesn't make any sense. I guess to get any headline other than the bad ones, because there's so many bad ones.
Reddit removes years of chat and message archives from users' accounts with no warning.
some guy said he met his wife on Reddit,
Wow.
and they still had the messages, but now they're gone.
Rip.
They claim that one possible way that you could get your messages back, although not in a convenient format, is to do the GDPR request, which is actually a lot of people say that's a way that you can maliciously take revenge on Reddit because they have to spend a lot of resources to get all that together.
Neat.
Did you see they brought back Place?
That's another big distraction, don't you think?
Yeah, well, they brought it back, but then I looked at it the other day, and half of it is artwork that says F spez. Oops. There was another one that was a guillotine with the Reddit guy, his little head in there.
I love it. I love that people are turning against corporations right now.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful thing to watch. Please don't stop. Please keep boycotting and going after the big platforms.
We'll see you Friday.